Today we're live in the studio for part 2 of my 4-hour wedding photography workshop.
Taylor Jackson.
Shooting 67 weddings last year.
Taylor Jackson, welcome.
So Taylor, you are well known in this community. You're an amazing photographer.
Section number 2, lenses. Getting into lenses, primes versus zooms. I think that there's a lot of debate on the subject of primes versus zooms. And while I love the look of primes, I personally find them to be not necessarily a negative cumbersome, that you kind of are limited by your options in that point. So I feel like you make better images and maybe more creative work. With zooms, I find myself that I'm just kind of a little bit lazy. I do not like shooting a wedding, even though it's totally capable of shooting a wedding with something like a 24-70. What I would much prefer doing is shooting a wedding with something like a 24 prime and an 85 prime. So my photo only kit, I'm gonna go through, I guess, the variations, because I also do hybrid photography coverage as well, which is doing a highlight film as well as photography coverage. If I'm there only to do photography, what I'm using is my Nikon 24, I would say 80% of the time. If I know that I'm in an outdoor venue that I'm gonna have no need for it to be really wide angle, I'll use my 35. And then on my main camera, pretty much all the time, with the exception of the ceremony, I have my 85mm 1.4G. And I personally love the Nikon 1.4G lenses for weddings because they really create something that's artistic and just kind of nice. It's a good feeling. I feel like it makes very flattering images in most light. And well, something like Sony might be more technically correct that everything's going to be like that optimal sharpness all the time. I feel like these lenses specifically for me, and I guess for my taste, they make better images overall in mixed lighting conditions specifically. And since I don't have control over every lighting condition that I find myself in, that I have relied on those lenses for a long time and I'm super happy with them. Again, this kind of goes back to taste, that if you like the images from Sony, shoot Sony. If you like Canon, shoot Canon. There's no right or wrong, and it doesn't really make sense to flip and flop between camera systems, because every 2 years you're gonna want the new Canon flagship, or you're gonna want that new Nikon, probably not the D6, sorry Nikon, or the new Sony that's probably just about to come out. You're always gonna want something new, so I think it's important to just find things that you enjoy shooting. And for myself, I know this is a section about lenses, but for myself, I like shooting something with an optical viewfinder. I like the D850 and the D780, and I feel happy shooting those for an entire day. Again, no right or wrong answer. If you prefer shooting something with like an A7 III, like that's totally fine. That this is just my preference, and I guess that's kind of also anchored to my history as a photographer too, that I've been shooting SLRs for a long time now, and I guess like the instant access to what's happening in front of me. The one thing that I've noticed is that it just seems faster too, that if there's something happening that with an optical viewfinder, I can just kind of pull it up, and by the time that the moment happens, usually I can have captured it. Whereas with an EVF, sometimes it takes a couple seconds to wake up. So my photo only kit, 24, usually on my second body, which just kind of hangs here, and then 85 on my main kit. And then a 7200, I use the Nikon 2.8 VR FL or VR2, I don't know what it is. It's the FL version of it. It's super nice. The thing that I like the most about that lens specifically is that every single frame that comes off it almost feels like it's from a prime, just the way that the colors and the contrast and the fall off of the out of focus elements in the background, it all just feels like a prime. So I like it because of that. But again, that goes back to taste. That if that's not a lens, if you can't justify buying something like that and you don't like the look, like, don't worry about it. There's no right or wrong to all things wedding photography. My favorite lens, as I mentioned, is the Nikon 85 1.4G. I think that this is just, it's my comfort zone. Manny Ortiz, when we were talking, he calls it the introvert's lens. He basically, like, and myself, that's a comfortable focal length. I like the way that the depth of field falls off in the background. I like the way that it actually rolls into focus, specifically on the 85 1.4G. I like everything about it, and that's kind of, I guess, my happy place. The 58 is also good, but I found that if I'm a little bit, I don't know, that I have to get a step or two closer, and I'm just more comfortable at 85. The other huge benefit to shooting an 85mm lens, specifically for a wedding day, is that if you, I don't know, like if you walk into a room like this, and you guys just saw what's going on over here, if you walk into a room and there's just all kinds of stuff all over, that you can easily minimize all the background distractions just by having that razor sharp depth of field, that you have people's eyes in focus and then everything else just kind of blends, and it feels a lot better than coming in with like a 24 f4 or something, and just everything's in focus, and you have to be a lot more conscious over what the room looks like in those cases, and you can cheat a little bit with an 85 or a 50 even, or 35 1.4 if you get nice and close. Moving into my hybrid kit, so if I am there to shoot a highlight video as well as photography coverage, which we do, I would say, I actually did the metrics on Patreon a little while ago, or I guess last month, and I think it ended up being something like 65-70% of the weddings that I shoot are hybrid coverage of some sort. So I have a hybrid coverage package, which includes a 2 to 4 minute highlight film that I shoot personally with my second photographer. I don't bring in a cinematographer or anything like that, that we just kind of do everything. And I think that, at least for myself and the way that we tell stories, I think that it's kind of like the nicest way to tell a story, that you have everything, that when somebody sits down and looks through their wedding photos, that's totally fine and great. But if they can watch a highlight video that fills in, I guess, more of the emotional story with it, it really does just kind of take everything to the next level. So what I noticed was not necessarily that I was basically just making my couples and my clients just way happier than they were when it was just photography coverage. And that is no disrespect to the photography coverage that those couples had received. It was mostly just the fact that they had a much better story. And a lot of them, especially in the beginning, just weren't in a place to hire a full videography team, because videography, specifically at the time that I started doing hybrid maybe 5 years ago, teams were expensive. It was like, to get like a good quality photo team in Toronto, you're probably looking like $7,000, $8,000, which is a lot of money, which converts probably to like 6,000 US. It was a lot of money, and a lot of my clients, they wanted video, but they couldn't justify that expense. So if I was able to come in at something that we were already there, it was just basically us just working a little bit harder on the day, staying a little bit more present, and working all the in-between moments that maybe we would have just had like a coffee break or just like sat down for a moment, to just like be actively working all the time, and then to have the editing process kind of like tagged on to the end there. That eventually over time, hybrid, I would say that it takes me maybe 2 hours to edit a hybrid video now, because we know exactly the clips that we want to shoot. And it's, I guess that's probably the most important thing that I've learned over time shooting hybrid, is that it's just like, you know what you're going to use, and you just no longer shoot what you don't. And for hybrid, to speak to that specifically, I know that I shoot all the in-between candid moments, as well as basically anything that would end up in a blog post. So if I was going to do a blog post of a wedding, any of those images, if there's 50 images in that blog post that are ideal, that basically becomes my highlight film, and I do all of those in real life motion. So that means that I don't know, blog posts, I usually don't include family formals, so I don't include any family formal stuff in the highlight films. And it's just the way that we build them, it seems organic, and it seems to make people really, really exceedingly happy. So I am happy to have offered them. And I've been asking this for a while. If somebody else knows of anyone that started doing hybrid coverage before we did, please let me know, because until then I'm going to claim that we started this genre, and nobody has contested that yet. So moving into a few sample images. So basically, like what you're looking at right here is from an 85mm lens. I like this image a lot. It feels really nice. Shot the same lighting, the same everything. With the 24, I went vertical, so it's a little bit different. But you can definitely see how things feel a little bit differently there, that even though it's the same image, the same lighting, both images are nice. 85 for me just feels a lot better, for a number of reasons, I guess. And one of them might be composition, because the 24 composition is a little whack. Next image. So 85 to the 24 in this scene, it's a little bit of a different moment. The light's just a little bit different, but looking at an 85, I like this image a lot. And this basically means to get a wide angle shot with an 85, I had to just take a little bit of a run, and I don't mind zooming with my feet to just like go out and just make sure that that I can get that shot with an 85. Shooting with a 24, it works too. It's a very nice shot. I very much like the image. I like to have both. I personally feel that the 85 feels a heck of a lot more romantic when you're just kind of, as an out of context image, that I feel like this fits into a set a lot better, but I feel like as an out of context, as an image on a wall somewhere, that this kind of feels a little bit better to me. And I just like kind of the overall feeling of it. I love my 24, but I love that 85 a lot. One of the things, I don't know if you can see it on the live stream, but one of the things that I like doing with the 24 is getting really close and getting that really shallow depth of field. So I'll shoot my 24 at 1.4, and I'll get so close that you really do get some nice depth of field. So as you can see, the tail of the helicopter kind of fading off there. I really like kind of the focus fade of that. So that's the one thing that is specifically, I guess, my taste, that I just really, really enjoy the look of that. Moving into my ceremony lens, and the lens that I will bring sometimes when we travel, not a lot though, because it's really big, is the 7200 2.8. I think that this is a key lens specifically for wedding photographers to have during the ceremony. And if you don't have one, you can have a backup. If you have an 85, usually you can get away with it. But if you have a 7200 f4 in your bag rather than 2.8, you're going to save a lot of money. And pretty much just like one more example of it, but the way that you can just kind of zoom around different objects and you can kind of create different frames, especially if you're walking or if you're just out with a couple. And like I kind of we'll talk a little bit more about this in kind of the full wedding walkthrough that we're going to go through eventually here. But by just having that lens, that I'm able to create a lot of different frames very, very quickly from a situation that's like, hey, great lighting going on, and I can frame that 10 different ways and give them 10 different images that all fit really well together. So for instance, if they wanted to put something up on the wall, that maybe they're not just going to put a big canvas of themselves, but they might put a medium-sized canvas with 2 other complementary images with it. And if I'm able to deliver those, I am a pretty happy photographer, I guess. So 7200, super helpful for ceremonies and just not being in the way. Again, I'm a very introverted photographer. I'm a very introverted human. If there were other people in this room, I probably wouldn't be able to do this very well at all. And basically, like, by using a 7200, you don't have to be in the way of anyone. You'll never feel like you're blocking like the mother of the bride from seeing her daughter come down the aisle or anything like that, that you can be out of the way. So that is one of the reasons that I love the 7200. But find what works for you first. In the beginning, I borrowed everything or I rented it. There's a lot of services, depending on where you live, that will just ship you in a Pelican case or a Nanook case or whatever it might be, that they'll just ship it to you. It'll show up at your house. You shoot it for the weekend, you send it back. And well, it might cost you a little bit of money to know that that's a lens that you actually want to invest in and spend your actual money on, is an important step, that you're just not buying something that's going to sit in your bag forever. Closing point on lenses specifically for wedding photography is that whatever your main lens is, it is worth the upgrade to get the best version of that lens. That if you love the 85, save up for that 1.4. I know I have a video kind of about saving money and how to save money in photography. I think for your main lens, the lens you find yourself using the most, whether it's a 50 or an 85 if you're a portrait or wedding shooter, or maybe a 35 if you're a family shooter, it's important to upgrade that to be the best it possibly can be. Or you can even take it one step forward and start like a little bit of an equipment share or something with a few other photographers in town if you're kind of all in the same boat and you want to upgrade, but you don't really have the money to do it. And if you're family shooters, maybe you're not going to be all out shooting on the same day, so you're able to do something like that. But yeah, so rent until you know what you actually want, and then go forth and buy it. Even though I love the 85, you might love a 50, you might love a 58, you might love a 35. Don't take my word for it. Go out and try them all and see what works best for you. All right, that is all for lenses. We're going to go to the phones here with Tim.
Yeah.
Tim has some questions, I think.
I got some great questions.
He has some great questions for me.
I didn't come up with them.
Tim did not come up with these questions.
But this is this pertains to like a wedding day. So Veni Vidivici asks,
sorry if I pronounce that terribly.
Do you do any backing up on the go? So during a wedding day,
Yeah.
do you take time to like back up midday?
All right, so the question is, do we do any backup as we go? I personally shoot with two camera slots. I always say that, and I have to make the animation of the 2 cameras going into the 1 camera. We shoot with 2 card slots always, so that you have your backup in there. What you don't have backup of is you physically lose that camera or it gets stolen or something. You don't have that backup. We don't do any backup necessarily on the day. If it's like a big day and there's many different parts, or we're doing a same day edit or something like that, or we want to do a same day slideshow, at that point usually we'll start downloading cards. But my strategy is that I literally just have my camera around me and I do not put it down. I do not let it go. That just stays with me the entire day, regardless of how annoying it is, or if I'm going out on the street in public or whatever it might be, that I am putting that in a camera bag and I'm making it an all-click camera bag to just, again, maybe a little bit over with all my backups as far as that goes. But yeah, so we're not backing up as we go. If you're interested in that, or specifically if you're shooting a camera that only has 1 card slot, the most likely point of when a card is actually going to fail is when you're removing it or putting it into your camera. So find a way. You can use a NAR box and you can actually just like go USB-C to USB-C and just download everything from the camera. Or if you have a laptop with you, get those little SanDisk solid state drives and you can download so fast. Like it's, I would say, what's a 64 gigabyte card maybe takes a minute 2 minutes. Tim's giving me 3 fingers, so maybe it takes 3 minutes total to download that card, and it is worth the investment in buying a solid state drive, if only for that, just so you can sit down and it's just done, and then you have that backup. And also it's a solid state drive, so even if you fumble it around a little bit, usually you'll be okay, and it's not going to go corrupt on you.
Yeah, Benny Vidivici says he only has 1 card slot.
So yeah, 1 card slot. Definitely maybe get an R box, or just bring your laptop with you and just connect it and get a solid state drive, and hopefully life will be good. But again, load off by USB-C or whatever the USB in your camera is, if possible, because the most likely time for a card to fail is when you're pulling it out, putting it in.
Richard Benson asks,
Will
you be sticking with DSLR, or will you make the switch to a mirrorless system?
Will I be sticking with digital SLR or switching to mirrorless? I, for now, am happy to be using a digital SLR. We have, I guess, through the entire month of January, we were actually shooting everything on Nikon Z6. So you're going to see a lot of Nikon Z series videos coming out. That is all for travel work. That is all for commercial work. For my actual wedding days, I am much happier to actually be on a digital SLR, which means something like a D780 right now, or a D850 is kind of the second, and I shoot it on medium raw. I don't need the full gigantic version of it. So yeah, those are, I guess, my answers to that I am happy on digital SLR for now. I feel just more comfortable using it. And then with the Nikon D780, when you go into live view, you basically have all the functionality of a Nikon mirrorless camera. So I'm a big fan of that. Canon R is also awesome. We're going to make a video, I think, next week with Sam Hurd about that and about his transition from, I forget what he was shooting, Nikon D850 or something before. He's since transitioned to the Canon R, and he loves it, as well as I'm going to do a video with Liam, and we're going to talk about hybrid coverage with Sony A7 IIIs, because there's been a lot of questions, and specifically questions the main challenge for hybrid with Sony and even with some Canon cameras is basically the buffer time, that if I take 10, 15 images really, really quickly, that it's going to take me a while to actually be able to record a video, because it's going to have that little countdown that's going to be writing to the card, and you can't start a video clip before everything writes to the card. So Liam's going to walk us through a little bit about his process with Sony, which is traditionally, I would say, one of the more challenging buffers. And I've tried every single Sony camera that's come out because I really want it to be successful. But for hybrid, I can't use it. That it's just much faster to use Nikon, and I've become very accustomed to being able to switch instantly. So I'm happy with my D780 as my main wedding camera right now. I was super excited for the D6, but as you all know, that kind of flopped a little bit on release. But yeah, so we'll see what the future brings. Back to the phones, Tim.
He says thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Stacey Jordan, another question from Stacey Jordan. Are there any fave macro lenses, 35 or 100 millimeters?
Oh, Stacey Jordan asks, favorite macro lenses. So going down to, I guess, the way that we shoot is that the less gear we can bring, if I can bring the smallest camera bag ever with me, I am the happiest. And using the Tamron 35, which is part of my hybrid kit, the 35 is just a really fantastic macro lens, and it's very, very small. It's not a traditional macro. It's not going to give you like that one-to-one full like macro style, but what it will do is it'll get you 85% of the way there, but also give you a lens that you can use all day, every day if you want. So we bring that with us, and we just kind of, on Nikon cameras, you can just go into, I think all cameras now, you can just go into crop mode within your camera and get a little bit extra reach. You'll lose megapixels, but basically Tamron 35 to get nice and close, and then you're at your minimum focusing distance. And then if you want to get closer, DX mode. All that does is it just crops in camera basically. So if you want to just shoot it normal and crop it in post, you can, but I think to shoot everything correct in camera is kind of the best possible situation. And if I don't have to crop that in post and I can just crop it with a few button presses really quickly before I even shoot the image, I'm going to do that. So that's our macro workaround for now. And quite honestly, like, we use it for ring shots, and that's about it. In weddings, I don't find myself using a macro for much else than that. So it's hard to, I don't know, buy something expensive to carry around all the time for that one single shot. Tim, next question.
One more question.
One more question. Final question.
From Jacob TKL.
Jacob TKL.
He finds that his Tamron 24-70 2.8 is so versatile and fantastic. I'm guessing for wedding days. Is this ever an option for you? Because he never goes above 1 point. He always goes above 1.8 anyway for his primes. Yeah. So do you find that 24-70 is a good camera for you?
So the question is, Tamron 24-70 2.8, the G2 specifically, amazing lens. It does everything that you could ever really need on a wedding day. The reason that I prefer primes over zooms is simply because of the impact that every single image has. That I find when I shoot a 24-70 that I'll shoot like at 24, and then you'll actually see this in some of the Nikon stuff whenever I tag what millimeters I shot at, that I shoot something at 24 and then 28 and then 38 and then 45, and everything just kind of blends a little bit too close together. And I find when I shoot two very distinct primes, a 24 on this side and an 85 usually in my hand, that every single image is either a close-up or a wide, and it has pop and it has something extra that makes it stand out a little bit more. So that's personally why I like shooting primes. That Tamron G2 lens, the 24-70, our buddy Marshall, like, I don't think that ever leaves his camera. It's a fantastic lens. All the Tamron G2 stuff is really, really fantastic, as well as their primes. And I'm excited to see what they continue to build, because they're doing some cool stuff right now.